Hey guys, Mr. Mike here, and today we're going to be reading Farming in Space by Amy Hansen. And so before we read, as always, we're going to identify the genre. And identifying the genre means that you skim the text, you look for key text features that you know are supported by fiction and nonfiction texts. What goes with each other? Okay, you'd be looking for those different story elements while you skim the text to identify the genre. And after skimming the text, you should have been able to identify that this was a nonfiction text. And the way that I knew that this was a nonfiction text is because as I skim it right now, I see headings. I see no dialogue. Okay, there's no back and forth between characters. I didn't see anything that looked like that. And also, I saw dates. I saw dates that give specific times in our history that reference new information to be learned. So, using all that, I knew that this was a nonfiction text. And that being that it's a nonfiction text, that means that I'm going to have three genre-based thinking jobs, which was the big topic, what was the text teaching me, and what was the author's point of view. And I'll briefly go over author's point of view again at the end, just to help give you guys a little bit of new information on how to identify that, because that, as we know, is probably the trickiest one to identify. So remember that as you're taking notes, how to fold your sheet. You know, you fold it hot dog, fold a hamburger, okay? And then as you open it back up, you can see that you've got 4 different sections, and you have your title, your 3 different genre-based thinking jobs, and then your notes section at the bottom. And in your notes section, you want to be taking notes throughout so that when you go back and you answer what was the topic, what was the text teaching you, what was the point of view, you have good notes that made you pay attention, makes everything easier. Okay, so I'm now going to read, then we'll talk about some questions throughout, and then I'll go over point of view, and then you'll be on your own. So, farming in space. In this informational text, Amy Hansen discovers scientists work to grow plants in space, specifically Dr. Mary Musgrave's accomplishments with that task. As you read, take notes on what happens to the plants in space. So, what will astronauts eat when a space voyage takes years or even decades? Lots of fresh vegetables, says Dr. Mary Musgrave of the University of Massachusetts. She has spent the last 10 years learning how to grow plants in space. And it's a good thing she has already started her work, because extraterrestrial gardening can be tricky. In 1997, while the Mir space station spun around Earth, astronaut Mike Foale peered at a sealed growth chamber. The astronauts had planted Dr. Musgrave's quick-growing seedlings in the chamber, but none of the stems were showing. So using the title in the first 8 paragraphs, what do you think is the big topic of this article? Okay. Confused plants. He opened the container and saw the problem. The white stems weren't growing upward. Instead, they threaded downward or sideways. Some of the roots snaked up, while others twisted around. These were confused plants. On Earth, plants' roots and stems take cues from gravity, using the Earth's pull to find up and down. This process is called gravitoprism. On the mirror, there was almost no gravity. Okay? What was the most important idea about our big topic in this paragraph section? What was the most okay, in those two paragraphs and what we've read, what was the most important idea, do you think? Just off that, what we've read. Dr. Musgrave suggested a solution: give the plants more light. This idea made sense because plants also use sunlight to find their way, a process called phototropism. And it worked. Once the seedlings had more light, the stems turned up and the roots went down. Now, Dr. Musgrave was free to worry about the next problem. Would her baby plants live to flower? Can we grow food on a space voyage? Starving for air. How does the heading "Starving for Air" support or add to the information that we're learning? Okay, why do you think the "Starving for Air" section, how does that aid to what you just read? Many plants died in space, but Dr. Musgrave thought she knew why. She thought the space plants were starving for air. Plants live by taking up carbon dioxide from the air. Since a plant uses up this gas in the air around it, the plant needs air currents to bring more carbon dioxide close to its surface. On Earth, the air is always moving. Gravity pulls down cold air and warm, lightweight air rises. So the air is shifting even when we can't feel a breeze. And with these shifts, plants get plenty of carbon dioxide. Air currents. Many earlier experiments with plants in space had used closed chambers. On the Mir space station, Dr. Musgrave tried a new greenhouse that had a fan pulling in a constant supply of the air inside the space station. The plants loved it. They flowered and even produced more seeds, which Mike Foale was able to plant and grow. Using Dr. Musgrove's methods, he completed the first seed-to-seed experiment in space and moved one plant closer to an extraterrestrial garden. And this, says Dr. Musgrave, is good news for long-term space travel. So how did this section connect to what we've read so far in that whole article? I want you to think about that. And lastly, as you go on to write your main idea, remember, you're telling me what was the topic, what was the text teaching you, what was the author's point of view. And point of view also does not mean you just write to inform or to entertain. Yes, the author is writing these articles to either inform you or to entertain you. That's a given. But the author's point of view is not a given. Okay, you need to tell me, what was the author's viewpoint or stance on this article? Okay, why did they write certain words? Why did they give certain headings? What was their perspective on it? Okay, use the facts and the details in the story to help you understand their point of view. So if you try writing, the author's point of view was to inform me, you're not going to get any credit. Okay, so good luck with answering your questions and your main idea. We look forward to reading those and with your race response at the end. So thank you for tuning in, and I will see you guys for the next story.